fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Business Renovator. Real world business coaching with real success. Interesting topic. Well, if you're here to watch us, learn from us, thank you for being here. But at the moment, I want to have a shameless plug for my sponsor. I'm really excited today. Well, I'm actually really excited every day, but I'm honored to have a wonderful man that I've known for a bunch of years now on as a guest. And I leveraged his real world business coaching for real success as the topic for today. And if you are a business owner, entrepreneur, thinking about being one of those, you've come to the right place, because you could ask a focal point coach your question about maybe time, team, money, or succession, exit strategy. And why that's your good fortune is there's a group of us around the world, a couple of hundred of us strong. And if I'm not the right person, if I don't have the answer to your question, guess what? I can make an introduction to somebody who could probably help you out. And the initial conversation doesn't require any credit cards or any transference of money. It might not be a good fit for you, might be a great fit for you. Either way, reach out. I'll give the information at the end of the show. So my guest, Danny Creed, is an amazing individual. Not only is he a fantastic master coach, he plays the harmonica. He's effervescent. He's charismatic. He's a lot of fun to hang out with, and he makes me laugh and giggle. And he tried to teach me how to play the harmonica. I almost got it. Anyway, he has an extensive background in street fighting sales, business, personal development, business startups, marketing, time management, and many, many more things. Master Coach Danny Creed delivers world-class guaranteed results, helping business owners and executives reach a new level of success. I can't wait any longer. Danny, come and join me.
Phil, oh. I've waited so long to be invited to your show. Thank you.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. We've got somebody watching us. They're a Facebook user, and I'm not sure who they are because they didn't tell StreamYard who they are. But thank you, Facebook user, for being here, and thank you for the kudos on the intro. So Danny and I were just talking about a whole bunch of stuff. His background, unlike mine, is not faux. It's real, and we're not going to get him to go pick up a guitar. It is real. He's moved pieces around. I've seen it move. Mine, you can't move it. There's a green screen.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this with the Focal Point brand for what, 15 years?
Yes, just moving into that space. Yeah.
And what is it that keeps you staying in the profession that you're in?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, my short story, and some people who are listening may know this, but I was a farmer in Kansas. That's where I started my life, and my family's still there 130 years later, but I knew that wasn't what I was meant to do. I walked into a radio station, spent 20 years in radio, and then in the 80s I got the opportunity to go into an entrepreneurial startup, as I say, which was, that was back in times where we were still trying to figure out how to spell entrepreneur, but it's just like a drug, and it really got to me. And I'd done 15 startup businesses, and so I was just at a point in my life. Again, I won't get into the story, but I was actually doing some coaching and working at the Pentagon Department of Defense, and an admiral pulled me over one day and said, you really ought to look into this industry of business coaching, not life coaching or any other kind, but business coaching, because my experience background really fed towards helping, using that experience to help people. And and it's kind of cliche and corny, but to answer your question, the reason I'm here is that it just feels like my whole life, everything leading up to being a business coach was preparing me to be a business coach through all the experiences of success and all the experiences of failure. And if I may just do a little sidebar here, the biggest reason I find that, and by the way, I've been very blessed and very successful at this, my clients have. And I'm telling you, the number one reason why a business owner and entrepreneur fails today is that they don't honor their past. They don't remember what happened, and they're afraid to go back and go, yeah, I screwed up doing this. And they did, but they didn't learn anything from it. So you have to honor your past, both the successes and the failures, so that you don't make the mistakes again, and it will save you time, effort, money. And it's just the thing that I love to help people with, start to finish. I love to work with a business owner, not necessarily that's failing, but I have a new client last week, and they're doing real well. They're about a $25 million level. And he said, I don't know how to go higher. I said, I'll help you. We're going to get there. We set a goal of 100 million in 5 years. Now, that may sound crazy, but there's ways that we have to show you how that's possible. And if nothing else, today's tough times, we give people the hope that they might be able to do it. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. And I'm glad you talked about that. Honor your past. That's something that I have all my clients doing. Even my prospective clients, I take them through an exercise. I call it your 100 success list. And the reason I do that is that we go through our life too quickly and too lightly in terms of giving sanction or credit to our successes,
Amen.
our failures, right? So Dr. Bandura, who I learned that from via another mentor of mine, Lou Tice, was the father of self-efficacy. And what he talks about is that exact thing, is we need to slow down a little bit to look back at what we've done. No matter what crap we've gone through, like the theme song, we get shit done. And the way we get that stuff done is by leveraging our past experiences, not to wallow in despair, to keep us staying there. I'm a poet, and I knew that was coming. And it's really to elevate us, to take us to another level, to take what seems to be an extraordinary, unusual, turning it into our new normal, second nature, just like us, and making that transition with no stress, looking forward to it with optimism versus trepidation. So I really like you brought that up, because that's one thing that everything I do is all based on that foundational, simple to do, simple not to do, but very powerful if you do.
Yeah, to your point, one of my favorite quick stories is I've had an opportunity to meet famous people and such, and a great business book, believe it or not, was written by Chuck Norris, the karate guy. And he wrote a story about his good friend, Bruce Lee. He went to visit him one time, and he was in his front yard moving so slowly, just, and he'd hit a tree, this big eucalyptus tree, and he'd do it again and again and again. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, I almost lost a fight the other day in competition because I missed a move. So what I'm doing is practicing this so slow. Then I get faster and faster. He goes, I had to slow down in order to speed up.
Right.
I had to slow down to speed up. So in a lot of the folks I work with in coaching, we have to go back to the basics. Brian, two of my mentors were Brian Tracy, which you and I both got to meet personally and spend time with, and Zig Ziglar. And one of the things both of them said was that, and I believe this, I believe I can coach anybody in any business, in any economy, anywhere in the world. Because one of the things they taught me was that the foundational recipe for success is the same across the board in any business.
Yeah.
And that recipe has about 14 ingredients, and the ingredients don't change. It just doesn't change. So I don't have to be an expert in dentistry or construction. I have to be the expert in business and helping people think differently and thrive and give them hope. And again, I work with one of my great success stories is a gentleman who owns 3 little shoe stores. I also work with a $9.5 billion company. And guess what? our coaching is all based on making sure we're solid in all the foundational issues, because when you got the foundation right, and we're living in a world today where everybody thinks they can solve it with an app, with a cool app, or golly, I'll download this, or golly, and if it doesn't work, I'll go move on to something else, book of the week club. Well, there's still foundational elements. And I think when we work with people, and for those listening, I'm telling you, go back to the drawing board. If you don't have a coach, call Phil or me, but the thing is, go back and look at everything you've taken for granted. If it's working, most people don't do anything about it. But look at what you do, foundational issues up, ground floor up, things like clarity, goal setting, time priority management, all these things, sales abilities, all these things build in to being successful today. And you've got to honor all you've learned, mistakes, warts and all, to move forward. You've got to slow down and examine those things in order to speed up.
Well, it is a journey after all, right? Not a destination. The destinations are just our checkpoints to go do a stop, reassess,
Right.
knowing what we now know, what would we do different, what we continue doing, and what should we start doing, right? And I think having an unemotionally attached to your business, not that we don't care about your business, we come with a more objective point of view. We're going to ask you some really basic rudimentary questions, because I've coached people in professions that I was afraid of horses. And I had a veterinarian who specialized in competitive horses, and I helped him get his vision clear to expand in his goal of having a clinic north and south of where I live in about 5 years. Well, he got the first one in less than 2 years.
Yeah,
and it was bigger than what he had dared to dream before, because he would come and I would just ask him some questions, and he would start thinking about what he needed to do. Then we'd look at the strategies and the mechanisms that he needed to put into place. Then we're just making sure that he was doing what he said he was going to go do. And
there you go.
It's fairly simple, but it's not easy.
No, it's not. It requires work,
effort, action. Yes, absolutely. You can't just think of it like there is the secret, the book, the movie, whatever. It gives you the impression that you just have to think about it and then it comes about. Well, thinking is definitely a big part of it, but you've got to act on the ideas and the intuitiveness that shows up and the hunches you get, and follow those through, and take your lumps along the way if you get some lumps. I was first introduced to
work boots.
That's right. I was first introduced to that theory by a fellow by the name of Leland Val Vandewaal, and he was a Canadian that was teaching that stuff before it was even. Matter of fact, was going through his program. This was back in the late 70s. And he says to everybody, he says, now you've heard some stuff. It's pretty interesting stuff, but you don't have it at an unconscious level yet. So be careful not to go out in the world and sunburn everybody with what you've just heard, because they're going to look at you with, woo, he's weird. But everything he was teaching us back then, talking about honoring your past, is relevant to what you've been just saying today.
Yes. Well, you have to. And again, I've seen a lot of people on the cusp of failing, and they know the answers. They're just not willing to, success is easy. I always talk about that because the elements of success, those in the recipe of success, the ingredients of it also include hard work. People aren't willing to work, sticking to it, not giving up too soon. These are all things that require effort and focus. You know what, the American, at least I'll say American, but the attention span it's said to be around 7 seconds. So if you don't master focus, you're out of luck. I mean, you're going to really struggle. And I know lots and lots and lots of people over my almost 50 years on the street, that the reason they won over and above people with higher incomes or a better education, better families, that whole thing, the reason they won, they just outworked them. And if you're going to start a business, whether it's a franchise or otherwise, your number one item on your checklist is be prepared to go to work. Because if you don't, It's not going to happen. I know salespeople say, well, it's not working, and I'm, the bad company. How many sales calls you're making? Well, 2 a week. Well, I'm making 10 a week. I'm going to be more successful for you because I've 5x'd my effort. I always wanted to meet a billionaire, and I've been privileged to meet 5 of them, and all 5 of them have said something to the fact that if you provide high value and you work hard, you cannot fail in earning more money and being more successful.
Yeah. I don't know if
those are the elements that you've got to create. It's a skill, I guess.
Well, I think it's a mental fitness. One of the things I have right above my head. It's about that. It's not just mindset, it's mental fitness is one of the modalities I use in my coaching practice. But to your point, what you said about you've got to get to it and get after it. And, a lot of people think, well, that stuff's old. It doesn't work. I'm listening to the more younger current individual. I'm not going to name somebody who I'm thinking of, but they talk about you need to know your purpose. I'm trying to say it without tipping off. And, the purpose is absolutely critical. If you know what you want and why you want it and stifle the how, you can become and do and have more than any other way I know of. And if you go back to Napoleon Hill's writing and his work and his study, you have to have a major definite purpose. But I have this banner on here for a reason, because you said something, you got to get off your butt and go put action. So Orson Swett Martin, fellow who was probably one of the forefathers in the personal development space, came up with these phrases. It's our get-to-itiveness and our stick-to-itiveness. And then there's a story in Napoleon Hill's writing about the guy who was 3 feet from gold. Yeah. And I've been that guy a couple of times. I go, man, do I give up now? Do I turn the other way? Do I try something different, or do I stay the course? Well, I stayed the course, and as a result of that, I have a client now that's been going on for about 9 years. You got to meet them a little while ago. And stick-to-itiveness is crucial, but also taking action is another part.
Well, I think you mentioned mental fitness and such. I want to brag on my clients, if I can, a little bit.
Yeah.
In the worst economy in North American history through 2020 and 21, there's a lot of people saying the sky is falling. That because of what was going on in the American government and politics, because of COVID, and all the people were dying in war, and it was on and on and on. I'm very proud to say that every one of my clients in 2020 and 2021, every one of them, 100% of them had growth. Now, the reason that happened was, I believe, in March of 2020, I went out and knocked on doors of every person I was working with or proposing to work with. And I sat down and I said, look, I acknowledge that terrible things are happening and probably will happen. I acknowledge that. I get that. But I also went back and checked this again against old history. In every one of the worst times in history, economic times in history, there was also a time where there were more millionaires made than any other time in history. And the reason why that was is because somebody sat back and go, through all this chaos and turmoil, there's got to be some potential here. There's got to be some possibilities. And so I told my clients, I said, I'm not leaving today with that in mind until we come up with 2 possibilities that we're going to take from COVID and all that's going on. I'm not leaving. I had one guy say, well, I'll just lock you out. I go, yeah, and I'll sleep on the sidewalk, but we're going to come up with 2 possibilities. And once I got people focused, it turns out that it's success through the worst of times really is between this 8 inches here. That there are 2 forms of mindset. And a lot of people talk about different types of mindsets. I think there's only 2. One is survival mindset, which a lot of the world will fell into. I'm just going to survive. Boy, I hope I live through all this. I had a guy tell me one time when I was doing those conversations, I go, what's your goal through all this? He goes, my goal is to break even. And I went, what? You're nuts. No, but he went to work every day, and his goal was to break even. And I'm going, oh, that's not. But sometimes all you have to do is say, how you doing, Phil? And people go, well, I'm okay. They've got that. Zig Ziglar used to call it stinking thinking. You
Mhm.
know, just they've got that survival mentality. The other mentality, I believe, is possibility mentality, thriving possibility thinking. And that's when I sat down with every one of my clients. So we're going to come up with two possibilities. And I was just so proud of my shoe store client. They were told by their home office to lock their doors, and I said, I'm not going to allow you to. So one of the things, the possibilities we did was, you know, the thing you put your feet in to size your feet. We drew that on cardboard and we set it outside the front door. So some guy came in to get work boots, and we said, well, we can't let you in, but if you would just step on that. Oh, 11 and a half. Okay, let me go get it. And they went in the back room, come back and go, we've got these two. Which one do you want to try on? This one. We open the door, stick it through, close the door. They try on, walk, they go, okay, and hand their credit card. They had their biggest year in 26 years.
Yeah.
Possibility thinking. So you've got, you know, just to finish up here, there's things like if you're hanging with people that all they do and gripe and bitch and moan, you need to change friends.
Yeah.
You know, you need to surround yourself with people who think the same way and looking for possibilities. You need to shut off the TV. That was my sage advice, coaching advice for one client. I said, shut off your TV, lock it down, don't sit and watch it, because they were just all messed up and they had some serious issues.
Yeah.
So it's all about how do you control this? You know, and it's about possibilities versus just surviving.
Yeah. One of my favorite expressions is a T. Harv Eker quote, and it is, where thoughts go, energy flows and results show. The mental fitness that I'm working on is actually everything you said there, I agree with. And without changing the way people think, nothing else will change, because they'll bring that with them. So if they're trying to become double the size, 10% more, whatever that might be, if they're bringing the same kind of thinking to the party to get better, that's the kind of a back-asswards way of explaining the quote. I think it was Einstein that said the definition of insanity is expecting something to change but not willing to do anything differently.
Yeah.
And what I'm been exposed to is just some additions to what I already know. And we have 10 saboteurs. There's a judge we all have, and then 9 supporting cast. And then we have 5 sages. And when we can get into our sage mindset, then what we do is becomes the easier. It's more free flowing, and we're more possibility thinking versus, oh, isn't it awful thinking? And it's in that isn't it awful thinking that drags us down, keeps us stuck, and keeps us in our isness, and doesn't allow us to get outside of ourselves to become the best whatever it is we want to be. And we can be anything we want to be if we know what we want, why we want it, and stifle the how.
Well, I'll even take it to a simpler level when I'm talking about possibility to and the survival thinking. The premise that we start building on then is understanding the difference between how we think of, are we thinking about what is or what if? And most people were in that what if mode. Well, what if I get around somebody, and what if I die, or what if the world goes to, blows up? What if, and they can't control any of that. So I try to get them to say, what do we have right now? In the shoe store thing, said we've still got people that are going to need steel toe work boots no matter what's going on in the world. That's what is. So do we want to be the ones giving that to them, or do we want a sporting goods store selling it to them that doesn't know what they're doing? Actually, I told one guy, so you're actually putting your customers at risk by sending them somewhere else. So what is what we can control.
Right.
So you'd have to look at this, it's the outside factors that throw people off. They go, well, golly, what's going to happen? What if a piece of space junk falls and crashes my car and kills me? I don't.
Well, the good news about that is it'll kill you. You don't have to worry.
Yeah. Well, that's still a what if. That's still a big what if, But, if we can control the what is, and that is a lot of it, again, in this 8 inches, but it's also, if you just stop and go, what is the reality? Jack Welch, the great CEO, used to say that if somebody come into his office with a question, he'd go, what is the reality? what is really going on here? And do you have a solution? So we come back, we found huge success. Again, with the folks I work with, we had 100% growth, both 2020 and 20 last year. And so far this year, they're having pretty good results too. So and that just comes back to surround yourself with someone like Phil. I hope someone like me that won't let you get into the what if, because it doesn't produce.
No, I agree. So if they wanted to get hold of you, I'm going to bring this up here and share some information about where they could find you. I need one more thing here to make this easier for them.
That's LinkedIn. Yeah.
There we go. So they could go to LinkedIn and find you there. They could search Danny Creed. That's what I do, and it pops up, but this is where you is. Some information about him: master business coach, international keynote speaker, handsome and awesome guy.
Oh,
it doesn't have that up there. I had to live this improv. And the other place you could find him is here at his. Click the wrong button. It's on this other monitor. This is where I was going. This is his actual website. So look what it says here: 2 years in a row, 100% client growth, 7-time winner of the Brian Tracy Award for Excellence. And that's not an easy accomplishment. There's some pretty competitive, awesome coaches that have gone up head to head with him. It's not a malicious sort of thing. It's a friendly competition. It's striving for excellence. It's really what we're all about, is to help you get to that next level. And isn't he a handsome dude? I didn't lie.
Thank you.
That's a great picture.
Great skin too, right?
Great skin, yeah. Well, one of my friends, the two ladies that I started to tell you on the pre-show stuff, and they have a video show that they do much the same as this, and usually they have women on, but they do have men on as well. And at the end of it, they added that. You said your favorite color is red, and I said I don't ask that question. See, I didn't have to ask it; I just presented it. But they say, "What's your favorite
lotion?"
Yeah, so I can't remember what it is. Anyway, so a couple of the guys are pretty funny, and they talk about it too. Some it's coconut oil, sometimes it's a brand specific. They're just funny. I love them. That's actually one of the gals that does the cards of wow that I was telling you about. And this is an amazing book. If you're in the business of business development, you'll want to get this one. Champions Never Make Cold Calls. I hate cold calls. I haven't met many people that like making cold calls. Some do. I'm not one of them. So here's a way you could do that. And the book is, I have an autographed copy of it. I go get it, but I'd have to go off camera. And my video coach would say, Phil, don't leave the scene and stare at the camera. So I'm not going to get it. It's right there. You can get it on Amazon, and it's written by my friend here. And it's one of the culture points, or one of the principles that we use in the Focal Point family to help reach out and find people that can benefit from what we do. So there's a couple of things from my buddy there, Danny.
Thank you for showing that.
Hey, no worries. It's the least I can do for my friends.
Yes.
So I do have a serious question. It came from all the way from just outside Atlanta, from a fellow by the name of Chris Deacle. He says, hey, make sure you ask Danny, what was it in his youth, his younger self, that put him on the trajectory that brought him into the business coaching space?
Well, I kind of answered that before, but I think a lot of it was when I started doing startups. When I was in radio stations, I started a little bitty AM radio station in eastern Kansas. But in a day, I would make sales calls on a lumber yard, a dress shop, a funeral parlor. I was talking to all kinds of different people, and I learned business. I learned different types of business. I learned the foundational rules. I worked. I started learning marketing. I progressed to bigger companies. I ended up working in New York City and Chicago with big advertising agencies, and it was just, the next big thing was to go into startups, entrepreneurial startups. It was just, like I said earlier, just a drug. It was just, golly, it was excitement, and it was risk, and it was selling, and it was creativity, and we had some really good, exciting startups, and I travel all over the world doing that. And then I started noticing, I met Brian Tracy in 1979, and he kept up pretty good research with Carnegie Mellon and Babson College and Harvard, and and the results kept getting worse and worse, that about now it's about 91 to 92% of all businesses started today will be broke, will be gone in 5 years. And I said, there's got to be something that I can do to help with that, with this knowledge of all the mistakes I've made and all the successes I've made or seen and been a part of and been around, and and all the lessons I've learned. So again, as cliche as it might be, I really had a calling, like some people are to the ministry. I've had a calling to the ministry of business, to help, to really come in and help people not make the mistakes, to help them seek visions, to protect their family, to protect their to help them grow their family tree, to help them get to next levels, to help them help others, and that's been really important to me. And I have a saying right back here that Zig Ziglar is famous for, but I look at it every day. It says, you will get all you want in life if you help enough people get what they want. And he's also always told me, it's a sales story. He said, if you ever look at a client as a commission check, you'll never be as successful as you possibly can be. You've got to look at them. How can I help them first? Shut up and listen. How can I help them first? And then what you get from doing that is a reward. And the reward can be a pat on the back, a thank you. It can be recognition. It can be income. And so I've always tried to do that, no matter how desperate I was, and life has been really fulfilling, that I can sit and talk for hours about success stories of clients and how they've helped their families and their businesses and all those around them. It's truly the pebble in the pond that we talk about at Focal Point. It's truly a pebble in the pond. And I call it that if we do it right, it's not a pebble in the pond. It's a boulder in the ocean. I mean, it's a tsunami that one person can create. So I'm really driven and passionate about what I do. And I hope it shows, and I hope it's continues to change lives.
Well, I was going to say, I couldn't tell. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? It's unfortunately the end of the time that we have allocated.
Oh, God.
It goes so fast. I want to say thank you, and I'm honored that you were able to fit us into the schedule of yours. I know you're a pretty busy guy helping move boulders and helping your clients do the same thing. So again, thank you for being here and sharing some time. Hang out for a few seconds. All right, my friend.
Yep. You're a good friend. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Wow, wasn't that awesome? I mean, not that. Wasn't he awesome? I think so. So if you ever have a question for a coach, my information was on the screen. Don't know if you caught it, but I keep it real simple. It's phil@coachphil.ca, phil@coachphil.ca. If you know of somebody who has a story that you would like to help them get their message around the world, reach out and let me know. We'll have an interview and get them on the show. What a time that makes sense for them, because you just never know what somebody's going to say is going to make an impact on somebody else's life one day. So with the last thing of today is to remind you guys to do this. Be wonderful, because the you in wonderful, it represents you, your uniqueness. You are unique and you're truly wonderful. So continue being yourself and continue doing that. Till next time, I'm Coach Phil.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.